Look at this guy over here, lighting up a stogie with a candle.
Hey, it's like pumpkin spice too. It's fitting for the season.
Yeah, it smells good, huh?
Instead of pumpkin spice lattes, we're having pumpkin spice stogies.
Hey, nail in the coffee. Nail in the coffee.
Welcome back to another edition of The House That Ellen Built. This is episode 22. I'm Scott Kinmartin. With me, as always,
Greg Vollmer.
And today we're going to talk about our Buffalo Bills beating the New England Patriots.
Scott, the only thing better than smoking a couple stogies after we beat the shit out of the New England Patriots in their home.
Yes, at Gillette Stadium. Josh Allen has a Gillette sponsorship. Have we talked about that before?
We might have briefly mentioned it.
I inhaled some of the smoke. You can celebrate with stogies, weddings, birthdays, Buffalo Bills wins, but you really shouldn't inhale them, and you shouldn't do them all the time. Ought to not inhale.
But every once in a while, celebrations cause for a good old stogie. A Stogmeister. A Stogarini.
How do you blow the donuts? So we'll get right into our predictions. Greg, you predicted
27-23 Bills.
And I predicted 27-17 Bills, which meant we both thought they were going to win. You thought they'd win by 4. I thought they'd win by 10. The actual score was 24-10.
I was expecting a stressful game, and it turned out to be more enjoyable. I felt like, I think a lot of fans felt like past the quick touchdown that the Patriots got on their opening drive, there was never really a sense that they were going to be able to hang with the Buffalo Bills.
That's true. I mean, we went down 7-3, and after settling for that field goal, it just felt like a gut punch. And then you see Mac Jones scoring a touchdown with a 48-yard dump pass to Marcus Jones, one of their 4 Joneses on their team. We had to keep up with the Joneses very shortly. Then it was all a beatdown after that. I mean, really, we outclassed them. Belichick was throwing the red flag, not literally, but like he was done. And so we kneeled it out 3 times to end the game, and we won. The Bills improved to 9-3. They're on a 3-game winning streak, and the Patriots are reeling after a 2-game losing streak now, and they are 6-6 at the bottom of the AFC East.
Bills finally get that much-needed divisional win. We talked about it on the preview, that this was a must-win for the Bills, that you can't have a team with Super Bowl and division, repeat aspirations, lose and go 0-3 in the division. And the Bills took care of business. They played a near flawless game. They dominated on all phases of the game. It was overall a fun Thursday night for Bills Mafia.
Yes, it was. All 7 games that the Bills have played on the road this year, they have hit the under.
Yep.
So it's been even when they blew out, the Steelers 38-3, it still hit the under.
We've been
41.
saying that all season. So if there's any avid bettors out there, they might have seen the pattern.
We'll get into one of your bets from week 13. But for now, we're going to do something a little different. Rather than breaking down some of the records the Bills set, some accomplishments that happened during the game, and injuries and all that kind of stuff, we're going to get right into around the league for week 13. There are a couple games still to play while we're filming this, but we're going to cover some of the highlights, then get into this. And I will put the timestamp on the screen if you just want to skip ahead to the Buffalo Bills. Let's get into week 13 around the league. The Chicago Bears lose to the Packers. Looks like Rodgers still owns Chicago.
He's still saluting the Bears at Soldier Field saying, "I own you."
And Christian Watson with 8 touchdowns in the last 4 games.
Unfreaking believable. You fantasy owners out there that took a chance on picking him up, mostly off the waivers. Well, if you spent some waiver money on it, you're extremely happy, and it paid off. And if you picked him up without even having to pay, you're even more happy. Man.
And then those that picked up Mike White and thought that he was going to save the Jets, I don't think there's any saving them, although it was admirable that he fought back, and it was a close game, 27-22. The Vikings ultimately win. He threw a dud towards the end, and
it is amazing what a big win will do for a team. They were clearly having fun this week.
Made shirts.
They made custom Mike White shirts. They came into the stadium before the game wearing Mighty Duck uniforms.
Yeah.
The flying V was more like a flying L, unfortunately, for the Jets. But
yeah, seeing Zach Wilson on the sideline in street clothes was weird. Like, he went from starting and being their franchise guy to being third behind Flacco and Mike White.
Yeah, it goes to show how unpredictable, how cutthroat, how quickly things can change in the NFL for anyone. It doesn't matter if you're a first-round pick, fifth round pick, dead last pick, the Mr. Irrelevant. But things can happen really fast, and you go from having a quarterback who beat the Bills and seemingly had a decent game to, in a span of less than a month, gets benched to, standing, like you said, in street clothes.
Yeah, and Minnesota, I mean, Cousins was pretty pedestrian. I mean, he started, but he didn't start very well.
Well, he started really cold. He was, I forgot what it was, but yeah, he had, his completion to incompletion rate, ratio.
It was like 7 of the first, 15 or 17 passes.
It was really bad, and then he did start to get things going, but you got to give credit to the Jets' defense.
Their defense is good.
Shut down Justin Jefferson for much of that game, and they made the Vikings earn every bit of it. So you got to give kudos to that defense, but the offense looks like it's leaving things to be desired.
And then Philly did Philly things, and they are now still a one-loss team. They beat the Titans 35-10. That was never even close. And A.J. Brown returns against his former team and got revenge. Deshaun Watson, who didn't quite get the revenge on offense, the Cleveland Browns still beat his former Texans.
It was an ugly game for much of the first half. You were like, oh my gosh, it definitely looked like a quarterback that hadn't played in 700 days or so.
Yes.
But yeah, if you, again, fantasy-wise, if you were smart and savvy and picked up the Browns defense, they did most of the heavy lifting against a hapless helpless.
They scored 3 touchdowns
Houston
on defense
Texans
and 2
game.
Field goals. That was the whole game.
I feel bad for the Houston Texans diehards. I saw some of them in the stands throughout the game, and they'd show a few, and they were still diehards were there wearing their face paint and their outfits, and man, it's got to be sad to watch that team right now.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
They were wanting to see one of those the kind of games we used to hope for during the drought, where you're like, well, we've only won 3 games in the year, but can we get revenge and beat the Patriots? That was their game. They've only won once. They've lost all the rest of them with a tie, and this was like let's try to beat Deshaun Watson coming back, and it did not go the way that Texans fans wanted it to.
I'll never forget the season. I want to say it was 2003. Where the Bills beat the Patriots 31-0. Lawyer Malloy, who we had gotten from the Patriots in free agency, did really well for them. Then we ended the season by losing 31-0 to the same team.
Yep.
So
and
that's
I remember
the division for you.
Man, talk about, it was such a joyous week that week, and there was optimism again in the air, and we're like, oh my God, this could be maybe this is a year that we finally can give the Patriots some, make them work for it a little bit in the division. And yeah, it just was a one-off. Sam Adams, I think, the big boy Sam Adams, had a fumble recovery, I think, or an interception.
It might have been an interception, but it was on the cover of Sports Illustrated.
It was one of those fun games. I remember I was at a buddy's house watching it. My buddy back in Rapid at the time had gotten NFL Sunday ticket that year, so we were both super stoked. And so I was sitting at his place watching the game, and I was just losing my mind.
Well, losing their mind would be the Dolphins fans. They had a good game most of the game. The first play of the game, Tua throws a bomb for a touchdown to Sherfield or Sherfield.
Yeah, the game starts and Scott goes, man, let's see.
No, you did.
No, but you said, well, let's see. He's going against one of the top 3 defenses in the league. And I go, yeah, let's see how Tua handles it as he throws a quick pass that goes for an immediate touchdown.
They throw an 85 or 75-yard touchdown. I'm going, well, damn. It got quiet real quick. And then they ended up falling apart in the fourth quarter. Tua threw a couple picks after 192 straight passes without throwing a pick. He threw 2 in 2 consecutive series. So they lost 33-17.
Yeah, still definitely gives me reason to be concerned as a Bills fan. They are still our biggest threat to take the division title from us. And, it most likely will come down to who wins in Buffalo when we play them here in a few weeks. But they're still an amazing team. They went down. The only thing that gives me pause as far as how good the Dolphins are is that 49ers lost Jimmy Garoppolo early, so they played against the backup Purdy, and he played pretty good. And he kept them together and kept them in that game, and then the defense for the Niners did the rest. So it's interesting. I mean, I want to give kudos to the Dolphins because they could have they had a chance to win the game at times, but yeah, the 49ers defense proved to be too much.
And the Pittsburgh Steelers beat the Atlanta Falcons. I'm not sure what to say about that. I mean, Pittsburgh, they're strong. I mean, they're doing everything they can to win those close games. Tomlin, once again, will probably finish 500 or better.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Still have a lot of work to go.
But it was against Atlanta. Mariota's not doing that great. I mean, I think Drake London's their only hope right now with Kyle Pitts out. And Patterson has a good game, but he's not doing what he did last year, where he just kind of tore it up in fantasy. And
Falcons seem to be kind of a two-person show. They feed it to either Drake London or they feed it to Cordero Patterson, and past that, there's not a whole lot going on.
yeah, you like Algier, but like he doesn't get nearly as many touches as.
No, once Cordero Patterson came back from injury, he's been fantasy irrelevant.
Yeah, Pittsburgh's Najee Harris had probably what I would say is the mean run of the week for Kyle Brandt, right?
Yeah, good for him. Najee Harris has been struggling a lot of the season.
Angry runs.
Yeah, he's been injured here and there. He's been struggling behind the offensive line. He, for the first month, was getting a lot of criticism because he wasn't reading. It didn't seem like he was really attacking the holes and was hesitant. So it's good to see him kind of come alive.
Yeah. Next up, we had the Detroit Lions, who really took it to Jacksonville. For a second, we thought Trevor Lawrence was out for the season. Maybe.
Man.
I mean, it looked ugly, and he bounced back, and he came into the game. Didn't quite look exactly the same. Detroit at that point was up like 30-7 or something.
Yeah, his Lawrence got sacked. His foot got pinned underneath a lineman, and then as he got sacked, they kind of did like a gator roll on him, where his foot stayed in one spot and his knee went another way, and it looked like it could be season ending. And miraculously, he walked off under his own power with very little limp to the locker room.
Yeah. Came
Came back and, like you said, gutted it out in the second half. We'll kind of see as the week progresses how much it truly affected him. But you got to give kudos to that Lions team. Once again, we've been talking and kind of singing their praises for most of the year. They've got a hell of a coach, and their squad continues to play really tough.
The Lions have found their roar. They've won 4 of their last 5, and their only loss is against a really good team known as the Buffalo Bills.
That's right.
Yeah, and then you had the division rivals, Washington Commanders and the New York Giants, tie. That game kind of went back and forth, and then towards the end of the fourth quarter, both teams were punting and playing sloppy and just handing the ball off and not even trying to move.
It was maddening. If I know that Commanders fans are pissed right now because they had a chance on 3rd and 10, I believe it was, to try to convert. There was still plenty of time, to try to convert it and get in field goal range to win. Instead, they pretty much accepted the tie or accepted losing, and they punted. Well, they ran the ball, which was just a extremely like, here you go, we're going to punt it play, and gave it back to the Giants, who were a field goal being short away from beating the Commanders, and that was a game that the Commanders deserved to lose, because you just, when you play to lose like that in the NFL with how close things are, and it doesn't matter how much time left on the clock, you got players like Allen and Mahomes doing crazy things with less than 30 seconds. And granted, Daniel Jones may not be either of those two, but he certainly got them into field goal range, and if they would have had a little bit more time.
Then there was the Baltimore Ravens, who lost Lamar Jackson early, I'd say first, second quarter. It looked pretty bad, but he just didn't come back in. I don't remember what injury it is.
Thoughts go out to Lamar, because obviously I still want to see that man. I know a lot of people want to see that man get paid the money he deserves. So hopefully it's nothing serious. And by the looks of it, I think maybe it was out of precaution that they kept him out of the game. Maybe he's back in a week or two. We'll see. I'm not a doctor. I don't know the reports out yet, but you got to give kudos to that Ravens team for having a gritty win where they had to come back and win in the last
10-9 in the last seconds.
Yeah,
Yep.
and it just, I don't know what the talking point should be emphasized more. The fact that the Ravens came back with their backup quarterback without Lamar for most of the game, or just how many times are we going to see the Broncos hit an even bigger low?
There's a lot of teams in the NFL that have a backup quarterback that isn't similar to their starter, right? It happens. And last year when the Bills had Mitch Trubisky, I'm like, in stature and mobility, he's similar to Josh. He's not as dynamic or athletic, but he's a very good, solid backup quarterback. Lamar Jackson's backup looks a lot like him.
Very much.
He's probably a couple inches shorter, just as shifty, and might not have the same arm or that elite athleticism.
Yeah, it doesn't have as elite of speed, but he is very shifty, like you said.
Yeah, and they had a chance to go up by more if they had done something a little sooner.
That's Good Sports is a show that I watch. Speaking of podcasts, we mentioned the Buffalo Fanatics a lot. Another, like an opposite, an opponent's team's podcast that I occasionally watch is, That's Good Sports, and it's a Broncos fan who does an awesome show. He's hilarious. I think it's Brandon Perna, but anyways, he was talking this week about, just before this game, he was just mentioning how low the fan base feels right now, and just how bad it is compared to the high expectations they had. And I can't wait to see what he talks about this week, because it's rough. It is rough pickings right now for the people of the Mile High city there in Denver. I can't imagine how long the season's felt for them, and talk about another fan base that I do feel for, just because it's just the misery and just we're having a lot of fun as Bills fans. But man, to have those expectations once you traded a king's ransom for Russell Wilson, and to see how things have unfolded, and you can't even beat a Ravens team that lost their quarterback in the first quarter, it's just rough.
That's the worst part, because Seattle's going to end up with all these picks. It's just like the Lions. They get the picks from the Rams, and the Rams lost again. So you've got Stafford, who's on IR now, so he's out for the season. They're likely going to finish in the bottom 3, 4, which means they're going to get a top 3 or 4 pick. It's going to go straight to the Lions. And now Seattle, which won again against the Rams, 27-23. That was a close game. And kudos to Wolford, their backup. He did everything he could, except for throw the ball right to the other team.
Yeah,
He did
at the end.
end.
At the end, he didn't have anything to work with, though. It was just they weren't gonna. They didn't have time. They didn't have timeouts.
Yeah.
They were on the wrong side of the field to even try to get a chance. So you got to give, again, though, kudos to the coaching, to McVay for keeping it as close as it was.
Yeah.
Because again, I mean, Seattle should have definitely handled that more soundly than they did, and the Rams kept it close.
They did. I mean, they were definitely trying everything they could. Akers looked good. It's weird to think that guy was demanding a trade, got relegated to like 3rd, 4th string practice squad basically. And
he was
now
in
he's back
McVay's
in there.
doghouse, like apparently,
Oh, yeah.
and McVay even talked about how like they were, he kept it like close to the chest, but they definitely insinuated that they were looking to trade him before the deadline, and it didn't happen. And then you trade Henderson away, which
No,
it's got to be.
they cut him.
They cut Henderson. So what a whirlwind of events for fantasy football followers. You get Akers to begin with, and he went in he went in the top 3 or 4 rounds
yeah.
in the draft, and then people pick up Henderson to go with Akers because
I
they're like,
like
oh man, Henderson starts getting all the attempts, and then some people dropped Akers only to keep Henderson, who gets cut, and now you have Akers back, and he gets how many 2 touchdowns?
Yeah.
Talk about a whirlwind of emotions and scenarios to get you back to where if you kept Cam Akers this whole time, which I know most people didn't, you're like, wow, this has been a wild ride.
Yeah, of course the Rams are going to fight, because they have no reason to tank, because if they're trying to tank for someone, they're not getting that pick anyway. Like I
Yeah.
said, they're going to the Lions. So
Yeah.
it's good that they at least kept it close. Now let's get to the most important game of the week. The Bills came into this weekend as a 5th seed. Then, after they won on Thursday against the Patriots, they became the 2nd seed. And last time they went from the 5th seed to the 2nd seed, Miami said, thanks for holding our spot. Speaking of which, Miami did lose. And we take over the 2nd seed spot, waiting for the Kansas City Bengals game.
Mm-hmm.
And the Bengals, who still have KC's number, have now beat them 3 times in a row, including the playoffs last year. And they won 27-24, which moves KC out of the number 1 seed, which is now the Buffalo Bills.
You love it when a plan comes together. And now it's looking like the only other team to play in epic fashion against the Chiefs, other than the Bills, are the Bengals.
And we play them this year still.
This was kind of an instant classic type of feel of a game, just like last year's AFC title game that we wish we were in was with the Bengals Chiefs. So talk about some exciting games being played. And again, you got to love how the Bengals franchise has turned around with some consistency at head coach, consistency most importantly at the quarterback position with getting Joe Burrow, the homegrown QB1 now that I'm sure Bengals fans are just overjoyed to have. So kudos to the Bengals team.
I love hearing stories like that where Joe Burrow, who's from Ohio, right, gets drafted there, just like Aiden Hutchinson, who got passed up as number 1 overall pick to Jacksonville, who took Trayvon Walker number 1 overall, which meant Aiden Hutchinson was able to go to the Lions. He played his college ball in Michigan.
Yeah.
Perfect.
It's always extra special, especially when you're watching draft night, to see a player that you can just see it in their face and you can see the reaction of their family, where it just means just a little bit extra to be drafted by a team that you knew they were hoping to be drafted by. It's a child's dream to like grow up and you're playing in that state and you go to college in that state and then you play for the NFL team.
Yep.
It's like reaching the pinnacle as far as like being a fan and a player. So
My dream was always to play for the Buffalo Bills, right? And I had family that really thought that I would make it. But when you're under 6 foot and not 230 plus pounds, you're not a prototypical linebacker. And then you see how fast people are in college. You're playing the best of the best in college, and then only the top 1%, if you're lucky, even make it anywhere near an NFL roster or practice squad. So my dreams got crushed.
Yeah, it
and
happens.
I'm like,
At least you played football and you played it at the college level, so
Yep.
you can bring insight to this podcast that I can't bring, where I can't necessarily talk about the X's and O's. I want to get better at that aspect of it and try to learn more in depth about the inner workings of the game, but you can bring that aspect to it.
yeah, some of it was instinctual, and some of it was like, look, they would say tailback, fullback, play side guard, right? Because usually you had like a wishbone or you had an I formation on offense, and it was watch the tailback, which way does he step, then watch the fullback, is he going to lead block, and then watch the play side guard. So if the tailback runs to one side, watch the linemen and see if they pop up. If they pop up, you yell pass because they're pass blocking. If someone's pulling it, if the I know you didn't ask for this, but if the tailback goes one way and the guard from that side pulls the other way, you're like, oh wait, they're countering, and then as a linebacker, you go instinctively right to where that ball is. That was always the trick. And if it was a pass, you drop back at a 45-degree angle about 10 to 12 yards, and that was your zone area. And if you had man-to-man, it was usually the running back or the tight end. That's why there's always a mismatch unless you're Tremaine Edmonds and you're 6'5".
Yeah,
you know,
and that's why they say that football is one of the biggest true team sports, because you have 11 men or women on each side of the ball, and you have to be. There's so many things you're thinking about in any given moment, and there's if you're in the wrong position or you communicate wrong to your team, it can throw everything off.
Yeah, I know you're trying to be inclusive here, but football, when it comes to the NFL, is a man game.
Yeah, it is. But there are women leagues though, like not NFL, obviously.
Oh, I know, and you know what? They're pretty badass. But
Yeah.
I'm just saying it would be unfair to have a 330-pound, 6'7" lineman
No, I
pulling
know.
on a 180-pound woman, and
No, for sure.
you get destroyed. So
But just like in hockey, and football, you got some pretty badass women out there playing. So
sure, and that's why they're known more. You remember the Necessary Roughness with Kathy Ireland? She was a kicker. And so they're like, oh, what is this pretty woman doing out here? She can't kick a ball. It's like the U.S. soccer chick that can kick field goals from like 50-plus yards. Teams were looking at her, but they don't really take women seriously like that. And I'm like, come on. I'm not saying there isn't a place for them. It's just when it comes to the physicality of the game.
is there going to be a day when we see a woman get either drafted or picked up by an NFL team to kick
Yes,
field
it
goals?
would almost certainly be undrafted to start.
Yeah.
But yes, I mean, it's just like you hardly see
And then there's
punters
going to
and
obviously
kickers
have to be
early.
special circumstances because of like locker room situations. Like they're going to have to go to a separate spot after the game to shower.
True,
and all
that would be-
There's
yeah.
going to be some issues there, but I would love to see it happen. It would be a groundbreaking thing.
You'd love to be in the shower? Over there?
I would love to see a woman kick field goals for an NFL team. That would be badass.
That would. There was a girl for Purdue last year or the year before when they were terrible and their kicker ended up getting hurt. They needed someone. They took a girl from the soccer team, and she made their first field goal of the year. So good for her. And I think she ended up having a couple really good kicks. And then, the team finished pretty poor. But
Is there still the lingerie league? Is that still a thing?
oh god, like the bikini women,
Yeah,
like the
yeah.
American Gladiators for women with
But
shoulder
yeah,
pads.
I mean,
everything.
and they go hard too. I mean, they're in lingerie with like just shoulder pads and maybe some knee pads.
I think
and
that
then-
was chalked up as sexist, and then they kind of faded away, like the
Yeah.
XFL originally.
Yeah.
Who knows? But that was our NFL recap because the Colts are playing right now against Dallas, and you have a parlay.
I certainly do. So I've placed several 6 to 8 team NFL parlays, just straight up money line picks this year, and I'm 0 for 5 or something like that. And I've mentioned in previous podcasts, parlay picks, especially just straight up picks, are tough, especially with how much parity is in the NFL, how many crazy things can happen. You get a last second, field goal or a dropped punt. There's just so many crazy things that can change the way a game goes. Anyways, I am one game, this Cowboys game going on right now. If the Cowboys win, I will finally break the losing streak of my parlays. It started out as an 8-team, and the only reason it turned into a 7-team is because I had the Commanders beating the Giants, which ended up being a tie. Thankfully, DraftKings, they void that. So
Yeah, it's
instead of
considered
you-
a push. So
yeah,
it's just,
so you lose that game, but you don't lose the parlay. It goes down to a 7-team parlay. So I bet 25 to win originally 400 plus, and now with the 7-team, if the Cowboys win tonight, I bet 25 to win about $230. So
232, right?
yeah, so super cool. I would be excited to finally break that streak and get back some of those losses.
But knowing you and your luck, sometimes I would say
Knowing-
Jonathan Taylor's going to go off for Matt Ryan.
There's gonna be a last second field goal, but no. But I told my brother-in-law down in Houston, Texas, who's a big Cowboys fan originally from the Dallas area, about the parlay, and he was pretty excited about it.
Cool.
So
And the last game of the week is going to be the Saints against the Bucks. I mean, they're both under 500, and the Saints are leading their division.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. It's like, can the Tampa Bay's defense return to form? They've got some injuries on each side of the ball. I know especially the offensive line has been struggling. So I think New Orleans could have a feeding frenzy on getting sacks.
They have a good defense, but
Brady.
overall, their offense hasn't been what people were
No,
expecting.
Alvin Kamara has struggled. Chris Olave has kind of struggled in recent weeks after really having a great
Solid.
season up until the last few weeks. I mean, last week was fine, but it's just Dalton. If they had Dalton's been fine, but if they had a top 15 quarterback, man, they would definitely have some opportunity on the offensive side.
That's what blows my mind about like Dalton, right? He was fun in Chicago. He did what he could with the Bengals. He did what he could, but really, you hit a wall. Mid to late 30s usually, and now here you are, Tom Brady, 45, divorced, playing in the league. 40. He's gonna be 46. There's rumors that he might go back to the Patriots next year. I don't know how valid those are, but first there were rumors that he might go to Miami no matter what, or he might retire, and I don't know what's going to happen, but if he actually plays next year and it's for the Patriots to retire there, that's bittersweet.
I was listening to some of the talking heads this week talking about that exact topic, and I agree with what most of them said, and about 90% of them said, why would he want to go back to that team? And I think that ultimately that's going to be what happens. I don't think that there's going to be anything other than nostalgia and wanting to finish his career back in front of the Patriots fans. I just don't see him wanting to take his old 46-year-old body and go to a team that quite frankly is kind of struggling with personnel issues.
In my opinion, there's no fucking way he's going to take play calls from Matt Patricia. When he was there, he was a defensive coordinator.
Yeah, and is he going to take another pay cut? I think he's going to demand top money to go back to Foxborough, and are they going to want to do that? So that's a interesting.
Plus, that was a different life for him. Now he's divorced.
And he's more he's more laid back now, and he's enjoying the
warm weather,
Florida sun, and he's a bachelor again. I would say just if you're going to keep on playing, I would say stick with the Bucks. Here's another interesting thing. Had Tua not been playing to the level that he's played now, that kind of put some rumors, on the wayside as far as the Dolphins getting Brady, because that was a talking point where their Dolphins were clearly wanting to Brady, and they were talking about getting Brady, and they got penalized for talking to Brady.
Lost a draft pick.
They tampered, the tampering thing. So anyways, so now that Tua's been playing so well, I don't think that Brady's going to have a chance to take his job next year.
Why there might be some validity to going back there, but like we've said, with the history and all that stuff, it's like some players that want to go back and retire with the original team that they played the longest for or won a Super Bowl with or whatever. I mean, he won five or six Super Bowls? He's won 7 in 10 appearances, and 6 of them were with the Patriots in 10
the other
appearances.
games.
There's one more thing I wanted to mention, and that was the San Francisco 49ers. They did win with their backup, but Jimmy G ended up breaking his foot. A season-ending injury.
He's going to have season-ending surgery. So you can only assume that he broke something or tore some ligaments. And based on the video replay, it was more than a sprain.
It definitely looked like a snap at the ankle.
And we now know it is more than a sprain for the fact that he wouldn't be getting surgery on a sprain. I guess, a high ankle sprain, they can sometimes do surgery. It's got to be a break.
It looked like a Dak Prescott type of injury with the lower leg. But it looks like the 49ers, who were becoming a Super Bowl favorite in the NFC, no longer had that shot. Although their backup played very well, it's still hard. They trade for CMC. They lost Trey Lance at the beginning of the year. Now they lose Jimmy G, and there was all that drama at the beginning of the year.
That could happen to any team. It could happen to the Bills. It could happen to the Chiefs. It could happen to the Bengals. You name it. Any team that's in the running, you're one play like that away from everything being changed, and that's why you have to take every week, for what it is, and not take any week for granted. And kudos to Jimmy, because he was playing top-notch football and doing a great job. And so it's sad to see anyone go down. But let's get back to this Bills-Patriots recap. We obviously have a lot to talk about. There's a lot of joy and a resurgence of hope in Buffalo now that we have regained the number 1 seed, and to do it in the fashion of beating the Patriots once again like we did.
Not only did we beat the Patriots, but it's the 3rd time in a row that we've beaten them in New England, which is the first time we've done that since 92, 93, 94.
Yeah, you've got a lot of records to go over that
I
were
do.
set on Thursday
So we'll
night.
go over a couple of the records here. Josh Allen now has 4 regular season wins or games against New England with 2+ TDs and 0 interceptions, which is the most of any quarterback against the Patriots in the Bill Belichick era. And another record was Buffalo is now the first team in NFL history to beat 4 former Super Bowl head coaches on the road in a single regular season. That's Sean McVay, that's John Harbaugh, that's Andy Reid, and that's Bill Belichick.
Yeah, beautiful.
The Bills are the first team in NFL history to win 3 Thursday night games in a single season.
Josh Allen is the Thursday night king.
He is. I think he is now 5-0 on Thursday nights.
He loves himself those thirsty Thursdays and wing Thursdays.
And the Bills have won 3 games in a row outside of Buffalo, so they've won all 3 games. That's pretty cool. And the Bills are 8-0 when Stephon Diggs scores a touchdown.
Oh, you want to know another stat? The Bills, I believe, are 5-1 or 4-0 when Singletary gets at least a touchdown.
Oh, I thought you were going to say 13+ carries.
No, I want to say it was when Singletary gets a touchdown. I could
Yeah.
be wrong on that. I'll have to double check. But
Okay.
yeah.
Well, the Bills improved to 9-3 and move into first place, as we've discussed, in the AFC.
Let's give a round of applause to that. Bills Mafia, we're back on top. We still got a lot of work to do in this next month, but feels good to be number 1 seed again with everything in front of us, like Allen would say and McDermott would say. We have everything in front of us, and we now truly control our own destiny with about a month to go left in the regular season.
With that said, the Bills are the number 1 seed with the 9-3 record. The Chiefs are the number 2 seed, 9-3, where the Bills have the head-to-head tiebreaker. The Ravens are the number 3 at 8-4. The 4th seed are the Titans at 7-5. The 5th seed is the Bengals at 8-4. And the 6th seed is the Dolphins. Right behind them in the hunt are the Jets, who are 7-5, the Chargers 6-5, and the Patriots 6-6. Those are the ones that are really still in playoff contention.
Yeah. Remember the days when we were sitting there at 6-6 or 5-6
And happy that we didn't have...
we were in the hunt for a few weeks.
Yeah.
Now we are again the hunted. So
And normally when the Bills were mediocre for those 20 years, it was like they were never a Lions team that was doing bad or a Houston Texans team that was doing bad. We were always mediocre to where the draft picks were always in the middle. It was like in the teens or the 20s. It was never 31, 32. So it was hard to get one of those franchise players, especially when you're not drafting well or you have a high pick in the wrong year and you get an E.J. Manuel, who was allegedly the best quarterback from that draft class in 2013.
we were stuck in NFL draft purgatory.
Not only that, but when we had a very good defense, we had a terrible offense. Or when we had a very good offense, we had a leaky defense. Right now, not only do we have a balanced offense, but we also have a solid defense. So both sides of the ball are in the top 5 or 10 in every major category. You've got special teams doing really well.
It's not this simple, but to get a turnaround like the Bills have done, like the Bengals have done, to name just a few teams, it starts with getting the quarterback. You finally get a quarterback, and the Bills had to trade up to get that quarterback. You get a GM and a coach that work in harmony, and they have the same vision, and you get consistency. So quarterback, you get a GM and a coach, and then you have consistency with the offensive coordinator, the defensive coordinator, and that truly is how you do. And that's why a lot of teams are using the Bills or the Chiefs or the Bengals now as a blueprint for how to set up a winning franchise. And it's not, again, that's oversimplifying it, because there takes more than that, and there's a lot of pieces behind the scenes to have a contender year in and year out, but that's kind of the piecework of getting it going.
Over the years, the Bills have been known for running backs, cornerbacks, and maybe linebackers, right? And occasionally a wide receiver 1, but nobody else. So let's just
shout out to Stevie Johnson,
Lee Evans,
Eric Moulds back in the day.
Yep. And the number 2s were like Peerless Price, Robert Woods, which are solid, but there was no quarterback to throw to them at times, And so running backs, right? In the 70s, we had O.J. Simpson, and we had Thurman Thomas and Kenneth Davis to go with that, and then Fred Jackson, and we've had C.J. Spiller, right? And we've had Willis McGahee and LaShawn McCoy, and these guys.
Marshawn Lynch before we traded him.
That's true. Marshawn Lynch, who actually was in Buffalo for the pregame show, which we'll get into that kind of stuff, because Fitzpatrick did the pregame and postgame show. He had an interview with Josh Allen, and that aired before the game, and that was really good. There was a point where Fitzpatrick got a shirt from Josh Allen that he actually wore a Fitzpatrick jersey during warmups. But he asked him, he goes, "I've got a cousin named Josh. Can you put to Josh?" And then later on, Fitz flipped it and said, "Oh, here." And he showed him a picture of a tattoo of Josh Allen with a feminine body, which is
No,
hilarious.
it's a tattoo. It's a picture of a sketch of Josh, and then he's wearing like this shirt, this kind of like this skimpy shirt, and then he's got a bulge, and he's just looking at it's like it's looking at a camera,
and
you
it's
know,
near
like
the
with his-
armpit. You see the armpit hair.
Very
Anyway,
bizarre.
And then he has him sign. He goes, "Oh, will you sign that for my cousin Ryan?" And so that went really well.
You
It
gotta
was a
love to
lot of
see the
fun.
bromance between those two, man. That makes warms my heart, and I know it probably warms the heart of a lot of Bills Mafia because Fitzpatrick will always be a cherished former quarterback, even though it didn't end the way we wanted it to, and he didn't get us the playoff drought. Because I think we all wanted, no offense to Tyrod, and Tyrod deserves the title of ending the drought. But I think many Bills Mafia members wanted to see that go to Fitzpatrick, and it didn't happen. But to see those two have an awesome relationship off the field, it's really cool. And for Allen, and Allen, we were talking about how Allen just gets it as our franchise quarterback and how well he just meshes with Buffalo, and it's just natural. Like, to wear Fitzpatrick's jersey like that is just a cool thing to do, and to just poke fun at each other like they do, it's super cool.
And then Fitz mentioned that Lee Smith, who actually played with both quarterbacks, he started his career with Fitz and nearly ended it with Josh Allen. I think he ended up playing for the Raiders a little bit after that and then retired. But he played under both of them, and Fitz had mentioned how Lee Smith said,
"Gosh, he has a lot of the qualities that you have, but he's talented." And I said,
Love you, Lee.
Yeah, love you too, Lee. You the man, baby.
and that was good. And then in the post game, Josh Allen sat down with them, got that ridiculous Thursday night crazy hat that they wear, and then as he's leaving towards the end of the interview, he does this like fake slip, and they all thought that he like, oh, good thing he caught himself.
My buddy in the fantasy chat thought it was legit. Like, he goes, "Vollmer, did you have a heart attack when Allen almost slipped?" And then I told him after you told me that it was set up.
I went back and watched, and it seems like Allen went like this on purpose because he's smiling the whole time.
Yeah.
And I mean, maybe
There was never like shock on his face
No.
where if you legitimately thought you were going to slip on live TV. So
Yeah.
it was a funny joke.
Yeah, it certainly was.
And they
because-
love to pull pranks on each other. I mean, again,
Oh,
it's a like, talk about an awesome bromance. I mean, Fitzpatrick was shirtless at the game last year, the wild card game, just absolutely losing his mind with Bills Mafia. So it's just a beautiful thing.
Now, if we get into Josh Allen's numbers, he actually was 22 of 33 for 223 and 2 touchdowns. No interceptions, but he fumbled the ball when he got blindsided with a strip sack. And Questenberry, our left tackle filling in for Deion Dawkins, did everything he could to finish that game and played pretty well. But, man, we missed Deion Dawkins, and Allen didn't see it, and he got thrown to the ground. Ball went flying. So he did have that fumble, but really, he threw an unbelievable pass to Gabriel Davis. It looked like it was third down from like the 8 or 9 yard line, and he's rolling to his right, nearly out of bounds, less than a foot from the out of bounds. And there's 3 Patriots defenders in front of Davis. It's like, okay, he's not open at all. Somehow the chemistry there, Davis knew to run back into the middle because the middle of the end zone looked open, and Allen just threw it there, knowing that like even if Davis didn't see it, it wasn't going to be in harm's way. Davis catches it. Beautiful touchdown. It was replayed a million times.
Dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun. It was an ESPN top 10 play.
It was, yes, it's a top 10 highlight for Josh Allen, at least for this season.
And there's
He had
only
so
2
many.
people in the league right now that can do those kind of plays at quarterback, and it's Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And then when it comes to running, you've been singing the praises for Singletary, and you said, looks like he's going to be capped off at no more than 14 carries. He got 13 carries for 51 yards, which is a 3.9 yards per carry. He did get in the end zone.
He got in the end zone. They
But-
still have him on a leash, on a tight leash, and there's only several things I can think as to why they're doing this. It's either A, they're wanting to obviously give Cook more opportunities now that he's been doing the work behind the scenes at practice and gaining the trust of the coaching staff. And so either A, they want to give Cook more carries to see what they have because they're going to ultimately let Motor go in the offseason, which I would not be surprised because we have a lot of money that's going to need to be paid and go around, decisions that are going to be made by Brandon Beane. And so they're either getting Cook prepared to take Motor's spot after this season, or B, they're trying to save the legs of Motor and kind of keep him fresh for the playoffs where they'll lean maybe on him more. But
I think it's more that. I do. I think it's more that because when the Bills lost this year, it was the time of possession battle, right? When they ran the ball 3 times more than they passed the ball last week, they won. Then this week, they did the same thing. Singletary had 13 carries. Cook had 14 carries. Allen rushed 8 times, which really was only 5 because of the 3 kneel downs that count, for 20 yards.
Look, I love to see the balance, and I know that there's a lot of fans that maybe don't like to see the balance because of the fact that it's not flashy and it's not padding the stats for Allen in the MVP race. And look,
Or fantasy purposes.
yeah, and I've put the MVP thoughts kind of aside. I would much rather
Super Bowl MVP.
Super Bowl over an individual MVP right now. Now, if Allen ends up getting the MVP for the season at the end, then that's just icing on the cake. But if we can keep a balanced attack going like this and take a little pressure off of Allen, I'd much rather prefer that, because you look, winning the way we just won, it's less stressful. You're not having Allen feel like he's got to put the whole world on his back. It gives him the chance to set up the play action when we have 2 running backs and Cook and Singletary doing what they're doing. Again, I am going to pick a bone with the whole Motor being on a leash and getting capped. He's on my fantasy team, so I am a little biased. But it
Truth
just
comes out.
Look, I feel that I think we are going to get rid of him at the offseason, and it's going to be one of those that Bills Mafia is going to get hit hard because he's been nothing but a class act for us. But I think he needs to go somewhere that he's going to have the opportunity to get 20 to 22 carries a game, because he may be small, but he has this talent and this ability to not only be a runner but a pass catcher.
Yeah.
And I think he could be an RB1 for any other team that wants to give him those 20 carries a week, and he's just not getting it with Buffalo. So, and again, I'm indifferent to us drafting Cook in the second. But it's now looking like, in my opinion, that they have to put some more carries on Cook because they did put that capital in him. And again, I don't think there's going to be enough money to go around to keep Motor at the end of the season.
Well, Cook also had 4 receptions. So, I mean, when you're looking at the receptions for the game, the passing yards.
And again, everything that Cook, and I know Cook has a little bit more juice and a little bit more speed than Motor, but everything that Cook did and catching in the backfield like that as checkdowns, he can. But from a standpoint of Brandon Beane and McDermott having to use their second-round asset, I understand.
When it comes to the passing yards, Diggs had 7 receptions on 9 targets for 92 yards and a touchdown. Seems like every game. And he's averaging 12 or 13 yards per catch all the time. I mean, his numbers are very good. And then McKenzie had another good game. Now, last year, he torched the Patriots. That was his coming out game when Cole Beasley got hurt. He only had 44 yards in this game. But those 5 receptions were crucial to move the chains, for sure. And then Cook had actually 6 receptions for 41 yards. I said 4, excuse me. So he was 6 of 6. He didn't drop it. Where Allen had a couple of those little dump-offs where he kind of slightly overthrew Knox and Singletary. They both bobbled one and dropped it. And Knox was really, he didn't do much of anything. I think he got like turf toe or injured his toe and went out, but then came back in. And he was mostly a blocker for this because they ran so much. And then Hines actually had 1 reception on 2 targets. Another one of those, that cool play that was like a shuffle pass. He just kind of like, he couldn't get the right angle to throw it. By the way, in this game, I saw Allen do one of his sidearm throws, so I think his arm is getting better.
Well, yeah, I think given the fact that there was a tweet that has gone viral on the interwebs of a Patriots fan was overheard by a Bills fan during the game saying Josh Allen is a nightmare.
Yes.
And I think that play, especially the play to Davis where he threw across his body, I think his elbow is doing just fine.
It caught the attention of Jay-Z, who was trying to talk to Gabe after the game. So they're coming through the tunnel. Allen splits to the left. He's standing next to Gabe, and you hear Jay-Z yell, "Hey, Gabe!" And Allen turns around, and he gets Gabe's attention, and they walk over, and he introduces himself. And on the internet, they're like, "Oh, Josh Allen met Jay-Z." And I'm thinking, no, Jay-Z got to meet the one and only Josh Allen of the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah,
that was cool.
It was cool. Yeah, Jay-Z had a smile on his face, so I think he was excited to meet Allen, and I think Allen was very excited to meet Jay-Z.
And afterwards, I'm guessing that they linked up and hung out too. So
yeah, like in summary for the offense, again, my bias of Motor aside, it was great to see Motor and Cook be effective. It's awesome to see Cook gaining confidence in the scheme and he's holding on to the ball. And it's awesome to see that we do, despite people wanting to get OBJ still, or even there's some rumblings about potentially bringing back
Beasley.
Cole Beasley. I almost said Greg Beasley, my
Emmanuel Sanders
my
is
friend from the fantasy group. Bringing back Cole Beasley, but I think it's safe to say that between Cook and Hines and Motor and McKenzie, we have a good group of guys that can be that security blanket and keep drives alive for Allen.
John Brown.
Now we also have
he
John
was
Brown.
elevated off the practice squad, so we had just signed him. He immediately is elevated because Von Miller was actually put on IR, and they had to do it before the game if they didn't want to waste this week and then have to sit Von for another 4 games. So doing the math, counting this week, 3 more weeks, Von Miller could be back for the Cincinnati Bengals game. And it's in Cincinnati.
Yep.
There are 2 more away games and 3 more home games.
And I'm very happy, not that Von Miller's on IR, but I'm happy that they're being smart about it and that he didn't have to rush back. It just, the way it looked, and when he mentioned on his podcast he was going to be back for the Jets game, I took that with a big grain of salt. I just felt like the way they've been handling
you can't
injuries,
trust the players. I mean, they have good intentions, but they don't know what the medical staff knows, and they don't get that ultimate, say. They can say, I'm ready, and they're like, no, you're not.
And the way Bills have been handling injuries all year, they've erred on the side of caution no matter who it is, and especially with a guy that we paid big money to help us go on a Super Bowl run with. We would rather have him come December, January, than to, Gregory Rousseau played out of his mind in this game. Same with, the normal suspects, Oliver, Shaq Lawson, playing
Jermaine
like
Edmonds
his
had a solid
old
game.
self.
Yeah, Edmonds, it was nice to have him back for sure.
Yeah, Edmonds, Milano, our cornerbacks. But yeah, Gregory Rousseau was what stood out to me, especially in the first half. I felt like he was very disruptive, and he had that batted down pass that was huge to end a drive. So,
and if we're going to mention the defense, we can't forget Trey White, who last week had 15 snaps. This week I said he'll probably have 30. Maybe they'll give him more if he's doing well.
Mm-hmm.
He played most of that game. Xavier Rhodes came in a little bit behind him, but for the most part, especially since Kyer Elam was a healthy scratch, which is crazy. First round pick who's not even on the active roster for game day.
Yeah.
It's a little alarming. Maybe there's an injury we don't know about, but it wasn't on the injury report. So,
then Christian Benford should be back in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think it has been 2 weeks. Yeah. I think so.
If everything goes right.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, we talked about that earlier in the week, that it was just a red flag seeing Kyer be not activated. I mean, that's, you want to talk about what we're giving, more carries to Cook, and obviously you're wanting to show that we were, the validity in taking a running back in the second round like that, and then now seeing our first rounder not even play was odd.
It was, but Edmonds had said that their plan on defense was to make Mac Jones one-dimensional, and sure enough, they did. And Mac Jones had 1 touchdown. It was that weird one to the cornerback, who was also the punt returner, kick returner. So he's fast and speedy. Marcus Jones, another Jones on the team, had a 48-yard little quick screen, and he took it to the house. The defense wasn't ready for it. Poyer couldn't take the correct angle. It was just rough. And after that touchdown, Mac Jones finished with 195 yards and only that 1 touchdown.
Leslie, Frazier, and McDermott, they adjusted, as they've done much of the season, dealing with injuries and trying to hide some shortcomings here and there with injuries and whatnot. So
I mentioned Jordan Poyer. Let's talk about that would-be interception at the sideline. So, recently you had the Hunter Henry touchdown that was called back. It wasn't a touchdown. And then you have interceptions that happen. It's like, okay, did he get 2 feet down? Did the ground cause a fumble? Wait, is that a rule anymore? Now it's like, you can get 2 feet and toe tap and then drop to the ground. But if you fumble, I feel like if you have possession, it's not moving, the ball's not wiggling, and your feet are in bounds.
Whether you're a cornerback or wide receiver, 99% of the time now from refs, it's not going to be a catch unless you have 2 feet in, and then you maintain that ball cannot move or touch the ground, obviously. So even if you get 2 feet in like Poyer did, and then you get a 3rd foot in out of bounds, when he hit the ground, the ball bobbled, and then he had to regain possession, and that is not going to be a catch in today's NFL. And I don't agree with it. You don't agree with it.
No, it
but
sucks.
that is how they're going to call it now. You have to not only have your feet in bounds, but you have to have control, and that ball's got to be secure all the way through hitting the ground out of bounds. And it sucks, but
DeMar Hamlin, he whacked a wide receiver. I think it was Jacoby Myers, which would have been a catch. and the guy dropped the ball, but he got a penalty for unnecessary roughness.
Yep, and ejected.
And ejected, and he's going to get fined, but he will be back next week. He wasn't suspended or anything.
Yeah,
so.
no, if he missed the game, that would be outrageous.
Yeah.
It was outrageous. It was borderline outrageous that he got ejected from the game, and it would have been more than outrageous if he would have been suspended.
There's one more thing I wanted to say. I think the Bills held the Patriots in check for most of that game. What still worries me is on occasion when you get those 3rd and long, they gave up 3 of them in this game. You can't do that. 3rd and 8, 3rd and 12, and they're giving those up. There's leaky plays, but it goes back to their motto of bend, don't break, and they already had a cushion. So
you forget about them when you win, and you forget about them once the playoffs come because you make the playoffs or you get the division title and this and that. But yeah, it's those plays that you forget about and those hidden yardage plays of just giving up the big yardage when it counts the most, and you need to get them off the field, get the offense off the field. Those can come back to bite you because it turns into a bit of a trend, and if you see it in the playoffs, it shouldn't be surprising, even though the season starts anew come playoff time, and everyone talks about the mantra of it's 0-0 now when you start the playoffs.
Yeah.
But plays like that happen in the regular season can tend to sneak their way into the playoffs, and when you're playing the Bengals or the Chiefs,
that can affect your regular season seeding for the playoffs too.
While it can be nitpicky talking about certain moments during the regular season and think that can correlate to playoffs, but take what happened last year in the playoffs, for example. That's something that we clearly need to learn from, and it's one thing if it happens in the regular season and we still overcome it and get a much needed win like we did against the Patriots, but if it happens in a divisional or a championship game, it's heartbreaking. And so hopefully, these are all learning experiences, and we're still trying to claw our way back to being 100% healthy on defense. That may not happen for the rest of the season, but we're trending in the right direction there.
Both teams were missing key contributors for this game, and so when we're talking about the playoffs, we're talking about trying to be healthy. We're definitely getting there with Rousseau back. By playoff time, even before then, we'll have Von Miller back. With White back in the lineup, that's really cool. So as far as the injuries go, we obviously had Jordan Phillips. He had a shoulder injury when Mac Jones was running for his life. He went back and forth across the field. He kind of looked like Kyler Murray for a second. Not
Slower.
Quite as fast. Jordan Phillips dove and like popped his shoulder out or something. And then the only other injury, as far as I know, was Knox, and he ended up going back into the game. Trey White did have a stinger for a bit, but he was right back in the game
Probably
as well.
Gave some people a heart attack for a little bit.
So after a pretty solid performance by Josh Allen, and obviously his numbers weren't 400 yards and 3 to 5 touchdowns, but his pace for the season is very similar to last year's. Last year, Allen had 409 completions. Right now, he's on pace for 402 completions, and that's out of 646 passes last year, and he's on pace for 628 this year. Last year, he had 63% completion percentage. This year, he's on 67% pace. Last year, he had 4,407 yards passing. Right now, he's on pace for 4,825. And touchdowns are almost identical so far. 36 touchdowns to 15 interceptions last year. And currently, even with a lot of those picks recently, he's on pace for 35 touchdowns and 16 interceptions. When it comes to rushing, last year he had 122 rushes for 763 yards and 6 touchdowns. This year, he's on pace for 126 rushes, so only 4 more, but 823 yards and 7 touchdowns, and his average carry of like 6.5 yards.
Getting awfully close to that 1,000 yard mark, which is just nuts.
That would be very cool.
And so he's set to potentially break every statistical category from last year, other than potentially interceptions. Which, if he continues to play smart and we have a balanced attack, then he could very well beat that category too.
He became the first NFL player in history with 3 seasons of 25+ touchdowns and 5+ rushing TDs in a season for 3 consecutive seasons. It's pretty wild.
So just to touch back on the balance that we've seen these last couple weeks, I really hope that we use that in the playoffs, because I was thinking about this earlier in the week, and I'm just thinking that, it's not flashy, and as much as we love to see Allen throw for 4 touchdowns and we're just throwing it all over the field, I think this balanced attack is the way to beat teams like the Chiefs. And
Yes.
I think that if we can carry this momentum like this and play this way in the playoffs, win the battle, the time of possession, and have the ball for 40 plus minutes. It's just the more time we have that ball and we're doing those methodical drives, those 14 play drives, those 12 play drives, the longer that quarterbacks like Mahomes or Burrow or Tua are on the sideline. I think that is a smart way to do it. And it's not going to be fun to watch at times, and it's not going to give you MVP type numbers from Allen all the time, but it's the way I think that you can win a game and not have it come down to the last second like we've had it come down to years past, and especially last year against teams like the Chiefs.
Yeah, for sure. I want to hear more of the Patriots fans whining and crying when they call into the radio stations.
Yeah, it all counts the same, right?
Yeah.
So
A win is a win, and obviously when you have callers for the Patriots saying that he's a nightmare, or I've got to quote the radio call from the WGR sister station. There's people calling in saying Belichick stinks and Mac Jones sucks, and the only touchdown they scored was by a defensive player, and Matt Patricia sucks, and there was a fan that was giving away his tickets to his coworkers, and he's going to go home to fight with his wife. It was hilarious.
oh, those tears taste so good. They taste saltier than the clam chowder itself.
So speaking of fans calling in and leaving comments and stuff like that, we have had some comments, not many, on our previous episodes, and I want to get into those now because I'm going to call this part comments for cards. Our favorite comments we're going to actually highlight, mention, and then send you a Josh Allen card, whether you're a Josh Allen fan or not. You just got to send us your address. If you don't want it, then don't send us your address. But if we respond to you and say, hey, you want a card, like Nathan Wheeler. Nathan Wheeler said, I'd prefer the show gets canceled. And we sent him a card. So here's a clip of Nathan Wheeler accepting a Josh Allen card.
Thanks to the house that Josh Allen built, I received my Josh Allen card for responding to their website. My Josh Allen card. I'm pretty excited to get this card. Definitely not a Bills fan, but just looking at these cards these days, they're pretty neat. But anyways, Josh Allen, go Bills.
In the backstory, Nathan is one of our good friends. He's an avid sports card collector. He's, again, one of the guys that got us back into collecting, and it brought back, that nostalgia of opening packs. And so that was 100% set up, and he's just poking fun because he's the only thing he is better at than collecting sports cards is being a troll. So
For sure. And he's a Seahawks fan. He grew up in the Portland area, but, Oregon doesn't have a football team, so the closest teams, usually you get the California people coming up, and they're a Niners fan, a Raiders fan, or a Chargers fan. But for the most part, we've got a lot of Seattle Seahawks fans because Washington's not too far away.
Yep.
And we had other comments. Jacob Dayton, he said, I love the Bills show and always look forward to watching it every week.
Thank you, Jacob. It's honestly viewers like yourself that make it easier to do this every week. We would be doing this if we had no one watching it. It's just a lot of fun, but it's awesome to have people that it's something. We want to do this for Bills fans and give them something extra, not only extra content in something that there's so much content out there, but to have you look forward to it, and hopefully it brightens up your week a little bit more. That's makes it extra special for us to do it.
For sure. There was another comment from Jason Patriots, who was actually my high school quarterback, and I played baseball with him as well. He had a hell of an arm. He could throw it 70 yards.
Throw the ball over the mountains.
Problem is, we threw the ball 30 times in high school because we ran the ball for 400 yards a game like Navy would.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. So Jason Patriots said, what are you wearing, bro? And I explained that when I was wearing the brown last week in my Pendleton hoodie, underneath it was a Josh Allen Wyoming jersey. So he ended up responding after that saying, good work, guys. I see the Allen jersey now, Scotty. Stick to the red, white, and blue. I have red, white, and blue on, but there's a lot of black. And then this year, that is a big P with the Oregon state logo here. So it's Portland gear. It's a really cool brand that was started here in 2015 in Oregon.
Big P, that's what she said.
Yes, the big P.
Shout out to you, Jason. Thank you for listening and for commenting and being interactive. We really appreciate it.
And the last comment I want to mention is PDX Bills Pub. That's actually the Cheerful Bullpen. That's the Portland Bills backers
the
bar. The
official Bills backer bar of Portland.
And Amy, the owner of the bar, said, you guys should do a live show here at the pub. And I'm thinking, let's do that before the end of the season. Maybe playoff time would be a good time to do that.
Yeah, shout out to the Cheerful and Amy, and we will most definitely do that. In fact, even before Amy mentioned it, it was already in the workings. We were talking about it, Scott and I, that would be a really cool thing to do, and we're definitely going to do that at some point.
Yeah, 4 of our next 5 games are actually at 10 a.m. Our local time, so 1 p.m. Eastern, and that's on a Sunday. So maybe one of those games we can sneak over and meet you guys, but usually those games are the ones that we end up going to the bar. If we're not there at the pub, it's because we're watching it from home or something. It's primetime game.
Yep, these last few weeks, I've had to work these last few weeks, and then you've had some family commitments. So, but usually when the stars align, that is our go-to place to spend with fellow Bills Mafia members at the bar.
So that's going to be our week as far as our Week 13 recap, episode 22, Bills beat the Patriots, and our run-through. Maybe you liked it, maybe you didn't, but we wanted to kind of start with the rest of the teams in the league. So if anyone's watching this that is maybe a Patriots fan or whoever we're playing that week, and they want to hear all that stuff rather than Josh Allen, the Buffalo Bills, we. I think it's cool to talk about the league and try to make it concise and then get into our stuff. So obviously, this is a Bills-centric podcast, and we're huge fans, but we also watch the rest of the league. We play fantasy football. We pay attention to the rest of the games, and we just wanted to add our 2 cents in there. So let us know if you like it or not, if you think that it should stay in the front, be short, go towards the end, be longer or short, whatever, or just cut it all together, make this only about the Bills. And then the last thing I want to talk about before we leave would be our sports cards. We do this every episode. If this is your first time watching, we put up 2 cards and we feature it. This one here is a golden standard. It's a 2022 Panini card, and this is the mother load. It's a Josh Allen card with 5 different patches on it. As you can see, it actually has the Buffalo front leg on it on the lower right. And then when you get the 2, 3, 4 color patches, it's really cool. And it's a sweet card. It's worth several $100s, I'll say. And you've got a card on your side.
Yeah, I've got another awesome tricolor patch card, which again makes it more sought after the more colors that you have on the patch. And it's an awesome select, a Josh Allen 2019 Panini Select.
Four color patch. It's got the white, red, blue, and black stripe on it.
Awesome. Very classic. It's got the classic holographs that Select does, kind of the two-tone that's just very classy, but gets the point across.
And if you're looking at the back, it's actually numbered 38 of 49. So it's a very short print, what they call super short print, SSP.
Beautiful cards.
What would you like to say to Bills Mafia before we leave?
I want to, just to end this show, I just want to give a shout out to the Bills Mafia of Western New York and all across the entire world. Enjoy this Victory Monday. I know it's always a little, it's extra sweet when we beat the Patriots. They're our most heated rivals. So enjoy this week. Have some Labatt's and have a great week. There's going to be a lot of smiles to go around, and I'm sure Buffalo, New York will be absolutely buzzing as we get ready to head into another week of facing the New York Jets.
That's true. It's going to be another divisional game. We have 3 divisional games in a row. This will be the second. Hopefully we win this one and we can win the third one and continue to be the number 1 seed for the rest of the regular season. We just beat the Patriots. Now we play the Jets, and hopefully we beat them. And then we go in and beat Miami at home, actually. And then we take over the AFC. Actually, we're number 1 seed right now.
Yes, indeed.
So that's going to do it for episode 22 of The House That Allen Built. I'm Scott Kinmartin. With me, as always,
Greg Vollmer.
Let's go,
Buffalo!
Hello. Hi. Can you say something? Hello?
A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Let's get ready to rumble!
It's much better than when you were going.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, let's get ready to rumble!
ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages,
Let's get ready to rumble!
Yeah.
Hey,
Now do the
the student learns from the teacher.
We could listen to ourselves all night and sound like primates. All right. Mute.
We'll go into it with the light, with them lit.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. 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 Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's up to you. Like I said, it's not gonna.
It won't really affect it because it's going to be all burning
It's gonna
anyway.
start. Yeah, once it starts burning and churning.
Burning, burning, burning line
This
a
baby's almost
river.
out, I think. Man, the flame is
Toast.
it's,
I mean, if I have to go to the store, I can, or we.
it's definitely low on butane or whatever it is.
A few moments later.
Here. Let's give that one a shot.
Put
Those
that
can-
in your pipe and smoke it.
Oh my god. We had to use a candle. Look at this guy over here. Lighting up a stogie with a candle.
Hey, it's like pumpkin spice too. It's fitting for the season.
Yeah, it smells
Instead
good, huh?
Instead of pumpkin spice lattes, we're having pumpkin spice stogies.
Woo! That's some smoky-ish.
Okay, here, I'm gonna switch you. Yikes.
My god. Ready to do this?
Ready.
Ready, steady, Eddie. Ready, Freddy? Mandy, Maddie? Week 13, it looks like the Green Bay Packers beat the... Okay, we'll do that again.
And as always, let's go.
Buffalo!
Now let's redo that last part.
That's going to do it for episode 22 of The House that Ellen Built. I'm Scott Kinmartin. With me, as always.
Greg Vollmer.
All right, that's going to do it.
Let's go.
Well, that's going to do it for Week 13 recap of the Buffalo Bills. Yeah. That's going to do it for Week 13 recap, episode 22. The House that Ellen Built. I'm Scott Kinmartin.
And I'm Greg.
I threw it.
It's
I
all
did
good.
it again. If I ever told you that I don't smoke, it's a good thing you don't have to inhale these suckers.
Yep. But you still get a little buzz. What's the proper way to hold a stogie, you know? Like,
Probably more like, I mean, you're asking the wrong person, but my great uncle smoked stogies, and he always did this. Like, he would wrap it around his finger.
yeah. Kind of like that, yeah.
Because then you could just flick.
It's just, yeah, conservative play calling can be maddening to especially fans.
It's bad. And you spit on my face. You have a hair on your hat. Okay.